Welcome back to Sports Class with Dr. K. It's fall, and that can mean only one thing. The LA Lakers are a few months from cutting down the nets again on their way to another championship season. No NBA rivalry comes close to matching the Lakers and the Celtics in terms of intensity and numbers of championships won. So we're going to spend today's lesson talking about this historic NBA rivalry, Lakers and Celtics. These two teams have won more titles than any other teams in the league. In fact, since the beginning of the league, they've won 33 out of the 72 championships awarded, nearly half. These are the two most winning franchises in the history of the NBA. The Celtics have won 17 championships, the Lakers have won 16. But with LeBron and Anthony Davis in the fold, maybe that'll change by the end of this season. Topping it all off, these two teams have tended to have different philosophies and different ways of thinking about the game, which has only fueled this rivalry that stretches from one end of the continent to the other. The rivalry emerged in the 1950s when the Lakers were still located in Minneapolis. The Lakers, who at that time had one of the NBA's biggest stars, literally and figuratively, George Mikan, a huge man, won the first NBA championship awarded in 1950, and then added three more from 1952 to 1954. Of course, we should note there were only 8 teams in the league during that time, and they included teams like the Rochester Royals and the Syracuse Nationals. The Celtics franchise took off in the late 1950s after they added superstar players like Bob Cousy, the point guard and magician with the ball, and Bill Russell, one of the greatest defensive big men the game has ever seen. They also added a feisty, aggressive, cigar-smoking coach, Red Auerbach, who has become one of the winningest head coaches in the history of any sport in North American history. The Celtics won their first title in 1957. The Lakers-Celtics rivalry was born in 1959, when the two teams met in the championship series for the first time. The Celtics took that series 4-0, sweeping the series on their way to the first of 8 consecutive NBA championships, a record that still stands. Unfortunately for the Lakers, they were on the losing end of 6 of those championship series, and even in seasons when it felt like the Lakers had a better team, the Celtics always seemed to be on the better end of it in the end. The Lakers made several important moves in 1960. First, they moved the franchise from Minneapolis to Los Angeles in search of warmer weather and more fans. Second, they drafted Jerry West, a superstar 6'4" guard who's known for some of the great nicknames in sports. For a time, he was called Zeke from Cabin Creek, a nickname based on a town not far from where he grew up. More recently, he's known as the Logo because the NBA logo is based on his body. And finally, he was sometimes called Mr. Clutch after a gutty performance in the 1962 championship series against the Celtics in a losing effort. A little more on that later. West joined with other superstar players, including Elgin Baylor, making them perennial contenders throughout the 1960s. The Celtics countered with an all-star lineup of their own, including Bob Cousy, that magician with the basketball, center Bill Russell, guard John Havlicek, and Sam Jones. And then, of course, there was always Red Auerbach, the cigar-smoking head coach. The Celtics dominated the sport throughout the 1960s, winning the title in every season except 1967. They beat the Lakers in 6 out of those final series, including 3 that went to the final 7 games. The Celtics just had the Lakers' number, along with everybody else's number in the NBA at that time. Those Celtics of the 1960s are the winningest franchise in the history of the NBA and one of the winningest franchises in North American sports history. Based on players like Bob Cousy and Bill Russell, who themselves are some of the winningest athletes in the history of sports. The momentum began to shift toward the Lakers in the late 1960s, especially after they acquired the NBA's most prolific scorer, Wilt Chamberlain, in 1968. Chamberlain and Jerry West led the Lakers to the best record in the league in 1969, and they seemed assured of winning their first championship over the Boston Celtics. The series went to a Game 7, which was held in the Los Angeles Forum on their home court, and Lakers owner Jack Kent Cooke ordered thousands of balloons put into the rafters so they could be let onto the court after the Lakers' victory. The Celtics, though, had other ideas, and those balloons had to stay in the rafters as the Celtics won in Game 7, spoiling the Lakers' hopes. Imagine having to be the person to take those balloons down out of the rafters. The intensity of the rivalry escalated even more during that game when Wilt Chamberlain had to leave with a few minutes left in the game with an injury. Celtics center Bill Russell accused Wilt Chamberlain of wimping out at the key moment in their franchise's history, and Chamberlain deeply resented those comments, harboring that resentment until he went to his grave decades later. The rivalry cooled somewhat in the 1970s as both teams won titles but never faced each other in the championship. The Lakers were stronger earlier in the decade, making the finals 3 times and winning the championship in 1972. The Celtics won additional titles in 1974 and 1976. But the rivalry definitely heated up once again in the 1980s, starting in 1979 when we got a little preview of the future of the Lakers and Celtics rivalry in the NCAA championship game, which pitted Michigan State against Indiana State. And of course, the stars in that game were Michigan State's Magic Johnson and Indiana State's Larry Bird. They played a riveting final game won by Michigan State and Magic Johnson 75-64. This was the first of many clashes between those two superstars, and they would anchor the Lakers and the Celtics throughout the 80s as this rivalry hit a fever pitch. The Lakers of the Magic era were known as the Showtime Lakers, as Magic Johnson led a fast-paced and exciting, energetic offensive style. Magic joined with all-world center Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Los Angeles, and they were joined in 1983 by another future Hall of Famer, James Worthy. The Lakers won the NBA championship in 1980 over the Philadelphia 76ers. The Celtics, who were reformulated around Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish, won the 1981 finals against the Houston Rockets, so both teams were back in championship form. The teams finally met again in the finals in 1984, a famous 7-game series. In Game 4, Kevin McHale tackled Lakers forward Kurt Rambis, bringing a physical element to the rivalry that hadn't existed before. The Celtics won the series, bringing their all-time record against the Lakers in finals to 8-0. The Lakers finally broke through with a finals win against the Celtics in 1985, winning Game 6 on the parquet floor in the Boston Garden. The teams met one last time in the finals in 1987. The Lakers won again in 6 games, with the signature moment being Magic Johnson's baby skyhook to win the game in Game 4. The Lakers then went back to the finals in 1988 and 89, both against the Detroit Pistons, winning the first and losing the second in 1989. Bird and Magic represented the opposing viewpoints and philosophies of these two teams, played up in a couple of stereotypes that played throughout the 1980s. Bird was the hard-working, Midwestern, small-town boy. Magic Johnson represented the flash and glitz and glamour of Hollywood. The two even played on these stereotypes in a 1984 Converse shoe commercial, in which Larry Bird was practicing by himself on a small-town court and Magic drove up in a limo, and then they played one-on-one. The two actually became friends after making that commercial in real life, although they had to put aside that friendship in the many intense games played out throughout the decade. Their friendship was finally brought to full fruition in the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona when they played together for the first time on the famous Dream Team, winning the gold medal in the Olympics. Both teams underwent a stretch of mediocrity in the 1990s as they both underwent a series of hardships. Magic Johnson in 1991 declared he was HIV positive and forced into early retirement. The Celtics' tragedy was even worse, as 2 of their promising young players actually died. Len Bias in 1986, before he played a single game for the franchise, and Reggie Lewis in 1993. Both teams missed the playoffs in 1994 for the first time in NBA history. For the Lakers, recovery started in 1996, when they traded for Kobe Bryant and acquired Shaquille O'Neal. With Kobe and Shaq as their core, and under the coaching of the NBA's winningest head coach, Phil Jackson, the Lakers returned to championship form, winning the title again in 2000, 2001, and 2002. The Celtics had modest success until the year 2007, when they became one of the first teams of the free agent era to attempt to build a super team, bringing in superstars Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen to join established Celtics star Paul Pierce. The Celtics returned to the finals in 2008, facing the Lakers once again, who this time had Pau Gasol as their center instead of Shaq. The Celtics won the series in 6 games, including a miraculous come-from-behind victory in Game 4. The final meeting of these two in the championship came in 2010. Kobe Bryant added to his legend, leading all scorers in 6 out of the 7 games. Ray Allen made a record 8 three-pointers in Game 2. The Lakers defeated the Celtics in a 7-game series for the first time, winning the championship. While neither of these teams has recaptured the glory of those championship years, the Celtics have been knocking on the door recently, and the Lakers, with LeBron and Anthony Davis, seem to be close to getting back to their championship form. Which of these teams will be the first to get another ring? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time. I think we have a caller. Welcome to Sports Class with Dr. K.
Hi, Dr. K.
Welcome.
I just had one question for you. Do you think the Hornets are going to win the championship this year?
No chance.